Well, here we are at VMworld 2011 in, where are we? Las Vegas.
I believe we're in Vegas.
And I have Luke
Possibly
here.
Venice.
I have Luke here, the founder, CEO of and creator of Puppet Labs. And I thought it would be a good time just to like catch up with what's going on in the Puppet world.
Well, so we put out a small update to Puppet Enterprise today, and that the main features of that update are that it includes now M Collective, so a command and control orchestration tool baked into the release. So now you can have that as part of your Puppet infrastructure without having to go through the configuration.
And so, what does orchestration do in this context
Basically,
exactly?
allows you to easily do things like software deployments, anything that requires doing work across a set of machines in a certain order. So I want to make sure that I bring my database servers down, install my new web application, bring my database servers back up.
All right.
Or I want to reboot all my web servers at the same time or something like that.
Sort of like the marching orders.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
It might compete with control tech or run deck or something like that. Control tier or run deck, but it's all message bus driven. So it's extremely scalable and it's extremely fast. Rather than being go to each host and turn over SSH, it's all wide scale message bus driven technology.
Right.
And then we also added a compliance application to Puppet that allows you to essentially track changes to your infrastructure over time. So you can see things like if my root password changed, or if a package got upgraded, or if a file on disk changed, Puppet will tell you automatically these things changed, and you can track, okay, yes, that I meant to do, and I know about that. These things I didn't. So if you're in the process of managing your infrastructure, you haven't quite gotten to the point where the whole thing is puppetized, but you're working on it, you can take the things you know you care about, begin auditing them with Puppet, and not changing them yet, just tracking them. And then as you're ready to manage them, it'll seamlessly move from I'm just tracking it to I'm actively managing it.
Oh, yeah. I remember asking another puppeteer, or whatever you might want to call them, about, plugging into traditional IT management and sort of like the manifest that you guys create.
Yep.
I mean, there's all these sorts of ephemera and stuff that you guys create on purpose and that are kind of side effects of what you guys do.
Exactly.
That are kind of like, well, if you need all the paperwork, here it is.
Yep. And so this is basically, the great thing about this application from our perspective is it was 10% new development. The vast majority of it is new application workflow and a new skin on existing functionality, because we already have the querying capabilities, the discovery capabilities, we already have the reporting capabilities, we already have the show users what happened capabilities. It's really just about putting a compliant spin on existing functionality. But when I say spin, it is a new workload, it's a new kind of work. Previously you had to say, I care how that's configured, I want it to look like this. Does it? And now you can say, I don't know how it's supposed to look, just tell me if it changes, because I don't have time yet to do all the work it takes to figure out exactly how it should look.
Right.
So it's a small step to begin managing your infrastructure. And if you can puppetize a little bit and audit the rest, you're on a great path to being able to puppetize the whole thing.
Right. And so back in February, you guys launched Puppet Enterprise, which is,
Yep.
Well, why don't you describe what that is?
So Puppet Enterprise is essentially the platform on which all of our commercial software over time will be built. And primarily, initially, it was all the open source stuff that you need to run Puppet at scale. So Puppet, the default out-of-the-box experience with Puppet scales fine to about 30 machines. And it's not that hard to get it to scale to hundreds of thousands, and we've got multiple companies who've scaled it to 50 or 50,000 machines. But doing that takes a good bit of effort. So Puppet Enterprise, we've got all that for you out of the box, plus a lot of additional testing. So the Ruby world especially, Puppet's all built on Ruby, and the Ruby world, not the most stable, maintainable world. And so we got all that tested, configured for you so that we know this specific version of all these pieces all work together. And we'll handle all the upgrades for you and things like that.
So it's all perfectly integrated together and everything.
Exactly.
Right.
And initially, it was primarily that out of the box, but that was not what we were planning on sticking with. So this compliance application is the first stage of adding additional functionality to Puppet Enterprise that is not open source, but sits on top of our core platform.
Right.
And we've got a whole slew of changes coming out in the near future. And Puppet Enterprise has been doing great. It's almost half of our business now, so it's been a great product business for us. Our training revenue, we're doing a ton of training. We've trained 1,000 people in the last 2 years, so people love our training, and it's beginning to be part of, having Puppet on your resumes is beginning to almost say, I'm the new kind of sysadmin. I'm the cloudy DevOps sysadmin. I think about the world this way. Puppet is beginning to be that way, and going to our training classes is a great way to do that. So Puppet Enterprise plus training have been killing it for us.
And along those lines, like, how would you characterize the types of customers that are signing up with you guys? I mean, I'm sure there's a diverse amount, but like what what are the different segments, or however you want to group them?
Yeah, so I mean, there seem to be kind of two major camps, and one of them is the we're too small to fit in the normal camp. You know, like the Opsware and Blade Logics won't target them because they only have 500 servers or something like that, and their problems are complex enough to need real solutions, but simple enough that they're not willing to spend $10 million a year to solve it.
Yeah.
And so we fit really, really well into that category. And then the second is people who are going to use Puppet anyway, people who are kind of going to stick to the open source product, but they want help, they need support, they need that additional help. They're going to send 20 people a year to training classes. So much larger customers, but are more focused on the support rather than specifically on the functionality.
Right, they want to buy a relationship with you to make sure the stuff works.
Exactly.
In the way they need it to work.
So it seems to fall in one of those two camps today, but as the functionality grows over time, and as we're talking a lot more about what you get with Puppet Enterprise as opposed to the differences between Puppet Enterprise and Puppet, you know, we'll learn a lot more about what that looks like.
Right. And so you were getting to this before I asked you to describe Puppet Enterprise, but like what's kind of the roadmap that you guys have in the near future? Like, what are you looking at doing next?
Our roadmap is it's built around capitalizing on a few things. First is really focusing on the out-of-the-box experience, focusing on, not that there's ever a box, of course, but focusing on what it's like to actually use Puppet, how much work it takes to get value from Puppet. We've always been, I think, the most usable, accessible product in this space. Our tradition has always been, it should take you less than 60 minutes from, what is this Puppet thing, to doing real work in Puppet. And we can point to multiple companies that the reason they use Puppet is because it took 60 minutes to get real value.
Right. Yeah, you had a nice slide one time I remember that was like, it took, what was it?
Google.
Yeah, it took like...
in the course of one presentation.
We moved however many gigantic hours or days down to like, you know, a few minutes or something like that. Whatever it may have been, but it's a powerful slide.
Yep. So a lot of it is making that even better, really being not we've got every piece of functionality, we can do every single thing. We don't want to be that kind of company. We want to be a company that builds very focused infrastructure layers, very small layers that do a little bit very, very well, and then stack those up in a way that as a whole is extremely compelling, but the individual pieces are never that sexy, they're never going to be that interesting. So Puppet's resource abstraction layer is always going to be small, focused, and not very capable.
Right.
Our language is going to be a stupid, simple, easy to understand, easy to use language. But with those two things and a little bit more, we can build very, very powerful things. So focusing on that, we're adding a lot of discovery and direct management into Puppet right now. Our next release in October is going to include a lot of that, and that's going to include a graphical interface to all of the orchestration that NCollective is doing for us. The next piece is going to be taking all the data that Puppet produces, and Puppet produces a ton of data. We've got one customer who's producing, just their Puppet infrastructure is producing 750 gigabytes of data a day.
Really?
A day. So building applications that allow people to get a handle on that data. What's going on? What's happening? Why is it happening? What should I be understanding from that data? And what should I be ignoring? So the first half is a CMDB. We've got great reporting right now, but we're building a CMDB that's going to take all this information, put it in front of you in a way that's very consumable, allows you to draw the important things out, and the rest of it's going to be there, but it's not going to be right in front of your face. And then the next piece is building workflow tools that are essentially change management, to say, it's really important to know how your infrastructure looks like right now. Is it running? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? But you need to have continuous deployment in your infrastructure.
Yeah.
Are my applications being upgraded? Are they being deployed at the schedule that I need? Is it taking more than an hour to get an app from the developer's workstation to in production? Those are the things that are really important, and we're building workflow tools on top of it. And again, it's mostly bit flips, application architecture changes, not big new development.
Right. Yeah, and eventually you'll have to work on a service desk next. You just keep going up the...
We'll probably call the change management service desk, because why not?
There you go. Well, great. Well, thanks for taking all this time to just tell us what's going on in the Puppet world.
All right, thank you.